Hello, Jelena.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me well?
Yep, yep.
Wow, so this is literally amazing. I have it recording here. Everything is good to go. Thank you so much for coming on to interview Ebony Keeper. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, definitely. I've been following your journey for a year now. Whenever I find somebody who's like, okay, they figured out themselves and they figured out, how to do this their own way and doing it in a big way, I definitely try to, get a hold of them and see what we can do together. So wow, let us know, like, tell us a little bit about you. Who's Jelena Ostrovska, you know?
Yeah, so I'm Russian. I live in a very small country out in Europe, in Latvia. I'm 24 years old right now. I started out in network marketing when I was just over 18, as my parents introduced me to the profession when they were building a company at the time. And, like I've had my own ups and downs. Like, obviously, like nobody really treated me seriously. Like when I started, prospecting offline, all of my friends, I even prospected my teachers. And they all thought that I was crazy because, like they thought, how could a straight A student get into something like this? Like this pyramid, like, is this like one of those things? You know what I mean? So like I've got like a lot of, so many people laughed at me and all of that. So, and pretty quickly I realized that, that wasn't going to be the way for me to build a business. So like I realized that offline just wasn't going to work out, as everybody has been teaching me. And like when you have a really small warm market, that's just almost impossible, you know what I mean? And I wasn't the type of person who was always going out and meeting new people. I mean, I'm the type of person who's like pretty much very introverted, although not a lot of people believe that right now, but that's how I started, right? And yeah, like I've gone through lots of struggles, including language barrier, being Russian and then jumping into the industry where everything is very much new. All the terms, all the marketing stuff. It just wasn't the easiest thing to do. So like that's why I probably struggled for the first couple of years, not really getting any sort of results. Going from like switching several network marketing companies, some shutting down, losing teams, teams moving to different companies. I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff. And then kind of transitioning more, to coaching, creating my own offers, like building business around, my brand rather than just, sticking to one network marketing company.
Right.
So that has been, I will say, like network marketing has been such a big eye opener for me to what's really possible out there. And I think it's such a good also way for like even younger generation to introduce them to the idea of multiple income streams and how other businesses are being built, because network marketing is just like a tiny little thing, you know what I mean? So it's just a portion of what's out there. So
Mm.
yeah, that's kind of been my journey so far.
No, I love that. I definitely appreciate that absolute, transparency. That is the running theme that I'm definitely keeping with my interview series. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with the, vocabulary that she used of warm market, what does that mean? So just to let you know, warm market is those you haven't that know you by name. Maybe they met you in middle school, maybe they met you in high school, whatever the case may be, and that's really what that means. Any person that, but they're not someone that you keep constant contact with. Yeah, definitely. I love that. So how would you actually personally define attraction marketing to what you said wasn't really your type of style, the old style of marketing, network marketing?
Okay, so the old style of marketing, it really is just you, going out to your friends and asking if they are open to checking out a business opportunity. So there's really, like no, they don't really see a lot of value in the beginning. Like when you first just kind of come up to them, they you say like, "Hey, do you keep your options open when it comes to making money online?" And they all usually say no. Like, what the hell are you talking about? You know what I mean? So everybody thought I was crazy. So, and I realized, okay, so let me turn online. And I've seen several people from my company, using social media, Facebook in particular. And all I was doing on Facebook back then, when I was like 18, 19, when I was in school, was just posting funny shit. Excuse my language. Like I was just posting funny jokes, or just like posting funny videos, or like just like everybody uses Facebook like before they come into business. And then like all I kept hearing about was attraction marketing. And like I didn't know how to use Facebook. I mean, I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know what to say. I mean, I didn't know how to present my opportunity. I didn't know anything, right? So I had to learn everything from scratch. They didn't teach me that kind of stuff at school. I didn't know how to record videos. I didn't know how to create value, as everybody was saying, because that's, the, how do you say, the premises, I think that's the word, of attraction marketing is you create something of value online in order to attract the right audience to yourself and to your business and to your brand in the first place.
Right.
So it's basically you leading instead of not leading with your opportunity, but leading with valuable content. Okay, so whether you want to be known as a travel guru, or you want to be known as a health and fitness expert, or you want to be known as a business owner, so you create some sort of content, just like any other company out there, but you are doing, like, you're building your personal brand first before you build the company, because companies, we all know, they come and go. So that's like the whole idea of attraction marketing, put out so much value to attract people to you instead of you going and chasing them down.
Right, exactly. Now I do know that I have it here. One of the other people I actually follow, Fraser Books. I think you guys, are familiar with one another. When he released the book, I Dare You, I was like, are you kidding me? Finally, something that I don't have to just watch. I can hold it in my hands and just read it as many times as I like. So I'm like, 30-40% of it through, but it's delightful. Okay. So who was Jelena before she went to her first training? Because network marketing companies, they have these trainings to sort of, pour into that person so that they can, have visions and understand themselves at a deeper level. So who are you on your first training? And how would you compare it before you went to your first training?
Okay, you mean like the very first training that I've ever watched online?
Well, the very first, if it's a training that really affected you, that you watched online, that it caused the epiphany, sure. Or if you want to talk about a company training or use both, up to you.
Okay, so the epiphany moment. I think there's particularly one moment. It wasn't specifically a training. So here was my problem with trainings. Okay, so once I realized that there is such a term as personal development, because I didn't know there were personal development books until I was like 2.5 years into the industry. So right, so it was kind of interesting. So like all I knew was I had to prospect, I had to like build my audience, and I had to just like talk to people nonstop, which it didn't really work out that well, right? So like, when I used to spam people on social media too, so like it wasn't always like, roses and unicorns and rainbows and all that kind of stuff. So I don't remember the very first training that I've watched online, but there were several. I think, like, honestly, if I had to like choose one thing that really changed like the way I see business and just in general, and the way I, started taking action in my business, has been actually from a book. The book is by Jeff Olson. It's called The Slight Edge. Because here's the problem with me and with a lot of other, network marketers, entrepreneurs in general. We go from training to training to training, which, it's okay to personally develop yourself and, do all that kind of stuff and, grow as a person, as a leader. But the problem is a lot of the times we get stuck in that cycle of, webinar to webinar to webinar, and then there's lack of execution. And even if there is execution when it comes to, like implementing the training, my problem was I was watching so many different things to where I wasn't really consistent with any of them. So I started doing Instagram. I got a couple of leads, didn't really get many results, kind of then jumped onto something else because people told me you need to build Facebook. Then somebody told me you need to do videos. Then somebody told me you need to have a blog. So like, pretty much people started telling me that like I don't have everything figured out right now. And the reason why I'm failing is because I don't have all those components. And I was like, bloody hell, like, I have to figure something out, because, all I was really doing was just adding one more thing to my plate. Surely I have the time and everything. But the problem was like, I was just overwhelmed with so much information. And then, yeah, like, I started blogging, I started doing videos, and I sucked. I mean, I failed at them. Like, there's like my very first video is still somewhere floating around YouTube. And I'm like, it's just kind of horrible. So very bad experience. But anyways, the point is, like I was inconsistent. And then I think it was either July or August 2000. 15, I think. And I had a conversation with my dad because, I don't know, we had conversation about something. I was like, oh, like I need to go and watch a training. So like, I can't, go somewhere or whatever. And my dad was like, are you going to keep watching trainings after trainings after trainings? Like, you've been doing this for over a year. And he basically told me, you're still not getting any results. Like, how are you going to change that? And, like, that was a very painful conversation because, like when your own father and, mother like tell you things that you don't really want to hear, but, that's probably something that you need to hear, because I didn't have anybody who would really tell me all of this. And, they said, you've been going to events, you've been spending more money than you've been making. So like, when is that change going to happen? Like, when is, basically your breakthrough going to happen? And obviously, I didn't know. And then I realized like my problem was the fact that I wasn't consistent. Because I was trying a couple of different things here and there, a couple of different things here and there again. And like, kind of going from one thing to the next thing without actually committing to something.
Right.
That was really my problem. And then, yeah, like I think that was really my epiphany moment, because when your closest people, that you have in life really tell you, kind of give you that kick in the butt, or more like a punch in the face, like virtual punch in the face, that kind of hits you, and you realize that, I have to do something about it.
Wow. No, I love that. So definitely, as you said, 2015, it wasn't like right out of the gate. Some people, they find success, boom, that's how it was. You wouldn't say that's the same for you, right? You had to have that moment first, or were you having some success? How did that go?
I mean, I was making some money here and there, you know what I mean? Like, a little bit here, a little bit there. Like, I was making some money in my network marketing company. It was okay until the company shut down. So that was like another moment where I realized that I can't just build a network marketing company. I have to build my own brand and build my own thing, because I never know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So I guess it was like, two of those kinds of moments.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I do enjoy about network marketing is that it's sort of, I look at it as a vehicle for you to really just figure out, what's your strengths, what's your weaknesses. You have this sort of environment you can surround yourself with, and mentors and partners, and they can really show you, okay, you also should focus on what your passion is, what you could say your destiny is, or, what you want to actualize in the world. Like for me, I do art. I know you do art as well. I absolutely, you guys definitely got to check her Facebook. She did this painting or something like that. And I was like, what? I've been following you for all this time, and I didn't even know you were an artist. Like, you were keeping that on the low, like.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How would you actually say, because I very much look up to somebody by the name of Josh Wadskin. He wrote a book called The Art of Learning, and he fuses meditation with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, with Tai Chi push hands, and chess. And he's a world-class beast in all of them. And he fuses them, and he gets new ideas from being in the flow state of whenever he's doing the particular sport. So how would you say, being an artist at your level, and being a business owner, a entrepreneur coach, how would you say they sort of interact with each other?
It's kind of interesting, because I haven't really done art in like, like consistent art in like 5 years. Like, I have a tiny painting, right? Like, not really a painting, like a drawing that I like was just like jotting down. Like, I don't know if you can see, like,
yes. That's what I'm talking.
Is that the one that you saw the other day?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so yeah, like I kind of got back to it the other day, because I feel like one of the, like, I've been doing art ever since I was like 7, right? So like, even probably like 6, like I was always like painting, like, or drawing something, usually like more drawing, I guess. Like, I've done some paintings and, things like that. But one quality that it really like trained me, like, it allowed me to develop, was probably patience. Because, that kind of painting, like drawing, like a little, like, graphics and all that kind of stuff, it takes a hell of a lot of patience to draw it. And like, my parents have always been like, and it's like my aunt especially, like, she always used to tell me, like, I have no idea how you're doing it. she used to be an artist as well. Like, she hasn't been a professional artist, but, she, I guess like I took some of her genes, for that. But I think patience is number one, because, like when I jumped into business, I knew that it wasn't going to happen like overnight, just like any painting, like I know that it takes time, to make it all like perfect and make it look nice. And, I know it takes time. So the same thing, like I kind of apply to business as well, as like, whenever you are, painting or drawing something, you have to develop the skill sets as well. You know what I mean? So it's not like, like I had to learn different techniques and different strategies, like how to make certain things better. And, like, just like, tiny little details that we don't usually like tell people when it comes to art. Yeah, so I think like it's patience, it's that perseverance. I guess like a little bit of a like grit, because I used to have so many paintings and drawings that weren't finished. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I really need to finish them. Like I used to have like a painting that was like sitting on my like bookshelf or whatever for like 3 years. And then I realized, oh my gosh, like, I really need to finish that. So I think, yeah, it's patience, number one. It's also that, resilience and that willingness to, continue to finish off the painting. So the same thing applies to, business and goal setting, because when you have something that you really, really want to achieve, just like finishing off a painting, it's, you have to keep going until you get it done.
Right, exactly. I remember that's something I had to learn when, and this is really like, a side tangent, really, we're going to be getting back to the original material, but one of my friends, he's from India, and he's an amazing poet. I'm a spoken word poet myself, and I was always writing pieces, but it would take me months to finish one piece. But this guy literally, on a consistent basis, every week finished the piece. And I was like, how do you do it? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. And he was like, well, I leave my house. He goes and under waterfalls, or he walks through graveyards, and he just like communes with the energy. And I was like, it was my epiphany moment, And I rode on my bicycle. I hadn't worked out in a long time, and I rode to this graveyard from my old high school that was like 8 miles away. And I was so tired, but this old white guy like screamed, like, the wind is pushing you back. And I ended up like, it just like stayed in my head, By the time I got to the graveyard, I wrote that down. It took me a lot of patience because it was raining, and I had to come back a second day, to finish off the piece. But I ended up finishing it off, and that's ever since then I've always known, climb a tree, walk through this, go on a trip, do something interesting that pours life energy into you, especially if you like, getting hurt or whatever the case may be, like, a relationship ends or something like that, instead of just I guess sort of being how do you say, condensed within that,
Mm-hmm.
turn it into a piece. It's so on from that, actually, it's my actual passion to to grow into the person who can teach other people how to unlock their power voice. Like, you have Les Brown, you have Johnny Wimbrey, you have, all of these people who can just literally raise your vibration, cause new thoughts, and just make you get on a whole different feel of yourself, just from doing a speech. What would you say is like your goal? Because obviously now you've been doing speeches and everything all over the world. I see you traveling and everything like that, training at all these things that you do. But what would you say is like your big goal right now? Not monetary or whatever the case may be. Like, what would you say?
Oh, well, I have so many. I mean, in all kinds of areas, I guess. But I remember like somebody asked me a couple months ago, like, what my, I guess, like ultimate goal is. And I can't really say it's like the ultimate goal, but like one of my big goals, it's not the current one, but long term, I really want to write a book, because I think there's so many, because, I'm young, I've never gone to college. I don't have a degree, and I've kind of been doing pretty well, without one. So, and I really feel like there's so many people, just like myself, who kind of get into that trap of go to school, go to college, get a degree, get a job, and then work for 40 years until you retire. I just don't feel like it's the right path for a lot of people. I mean, unless you want to become a doctor or a lawyer or any sort of like professional like that, you don't really need one. I mean, you don't have to, like there's so many possibilities and opportunities out there right now with the internet that you don't really have to be, stuck being somewhere, go and see your boss that you may or may not even like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I guess like that's one of my goals, to write a book and to be able to, kind of reach, the masses. Cause I think that's, like one of those ways how you can, reach way, way more people than just like through social media, you know what I mean? So yeah, that has kind of always, and it's kind of interesting because I never really even thought about writing a book until I just came to the industry. And even when I did, I was like, writing a book or like all that, I was like, oh no, like I'm Russian, like, you know, how can I even do that? Like, you know, my grammar isn't always perfect, you know. And people even told me before, they were like, oh, your grammar is not even good for blogging. Like, that was like one of my teachers, and I was like, okay, you know, like, and still I get paid, you know, to write every now and then. So I guess it worked out.
Right. Okay. I dig it. Were you done?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So like back to the question, even going into you saying, you're Russian, I know you actually didn't speak English right off the bat and you had to teach yourself. So with that and this question, I would love your answer. So, I'm ambiverted myself, but for many people when considering becoming involved with or deciding to build a business, oftentimes assume being an introvert like you is not possible. I personally feel that introverts, they have their own strengths, just like extroverts have their own strengths. How would you say, teaching yourself English and being an introvert, how did that sort of color your experience?
Okay, yeah, it's been pretty interesting. So I can't really say that I taught myself English like myself. Obviously, I learned it at school. I mean, I've been learning English ever since I was 7, I think. So it's been quite a journey, but it was very far from professional English. It was just like general academic English. I passed some tests and all that. And like the real learning really started when I dove into the industry. Like when I started talking to native English speakers, I realized that, okay, like I'm not actually that good. Like I have like a lot to learn, a lot to understand, you know what I mean? So it was like a lot of, I guess, like self-teaching as well, and a lot of Google Translate as well. So, but as far as like being an introvert, yeah, like, I don't know, like I've always been an introvert, like, my whole life. I mean, like if I had to make a choice whether to go out with friends or to read a book, I would prefer the latter,
Yeah.
right? So like I would sit down at home and just like read a book and, educate myself and, don't mind, like I love my friends and everything, but I've always been like very like close, and just a close person, I guess you can say. That definitely changed like as I came into the industry, and like so many people, like I guess I turned into like that ambivert. But I think when it comes to introverts, like I have so many people, and like some people that I coach, and they say, well, I'm an introvert, like what kind of suggestions they have? A lot. Okay, so when you are an introvert and when you have that like kind of closed mentality, or you're just like you just don't want to hang out with people, generally, and I don't know about every introvert, like I have a pretty good ability to focus. So a lot of the times, like I just sit down from my computer an hour, 2 hours, and I just get stuff done, like without being bothered or without talking to anybody, or like obviously it requires me to talk to people on social media and get on phone calls and things like that. So I think like in the beginning, because like I think one of the problems that introverts do run into is, like I have a coaching client and she asked me the other day, she was like, am I going to be required to do Facebook lives? And I was like, yes. And she almost freaked out. I was like, don't worry, like I'm not going to challenge you like since day one. You know what I mean? So I think it's like, those areas where you kind of suck in the beginning. So I always say in the beginning, you have to first work on your existing strengths, whether that's focus, the ability to, maybe you're able to talk to people on social media without being like super scared or anything, like, we all have different talents, I guess you can say. But, even something like, I don't know, like putting together a website or, whatever else, it doesn't even require talking to people, creating content, or sitting down and, writing a piece of content for like social media, for Facebook or for Instagram. So I think like for me, like for a long time, I really stayed behind my computer, I guess. Just that's why I got into blogging, because, I was pretty decent at writing and I really wanted to practice even more. So I got into blogging, and I wasn't even doing videos at the time because I was like, well, I don't really want to do videos because I'm scared. And I was like saying to myself, I'm too rushed into the videos, so it's like it was like a stupid excuse. But yeah, like I think in the beginning, really focus on your strengths rather than your weaknesses, because if you just focus on your weaknesses, you kind of forget about your strengths, the things that you're already good at. So, and while you like how do I say that, while you work on your strengths, while you like take action, that you can do pretty confidently, whether that's writing. Usually that's writing, I guess. Like, that's kind of what I found. Or even like going to trainings and like learning and absorbing more information that you then can implement. And then also realize, like, when it comes to, let's say, network marketing, you have to realize that there are probably some weaknesses that you do have to work on while you know while you have certain strengths, if that makes sense. Which for me, that was talking to people. I was scared to death to pick up the phone. I was scared to death to message people on Facebook, because I was like, what do I tell those people? Like, I'm just like a 20-year-old chick who is just trying to like build something online. Why would they even pay attention to me?
Right.
So I think that's like one of the, I guess, like next steps for a lot of introverts is to get out of their own shell and start getting more comfortable when it comes to talking to people, even like chatting on Facebook. And like, I kind of took it all in steps. Like, I was on like chatting, then Facebook rolled out voice messenger, and obviously like, I was still scared to death of picking up the phone call, picking up the phone and doing the calls. So then I started using voice messaging. So that kind of helped me improve a little bit. And I was like, oh, like, I'm kind of getting better. Like, the first voice messages I sucked. I had to re-record them multiple times. And then, like, I started getting a little bit more comfortable with it. Well, with that. I've also developed, several friends with whom like I can talk to on a daily basis. So that's how I also practice my English, and kind of that improved my confidence. And the thing that really improved my confidence, I think, that kind of turned me from that introvert to more extroverted side of the spectrum, has been, like, me going out there, taking action, getting results. Because when what you're doing is working,
Right.
that's when it's like immediate boost of confidence, and like you can walk with your head up high, not like confidence, not arrogance. Okay, so there's a fine line between that. Like, arrogance is not a good quality. Confidence, when you can walk into the room confidently and present yourself like a leader that you are, then that's when you're doing something right. So I think that's really something that you really have to first work on your strengths, and then like take the action that you can take confidently. And then in the meantime, start improving in the areas where you feel like you suck, but those areas you must improve because they can't be outsourced. And I knew that I couldn't outsource video. I knew I couldn't outsource my face. I knew I couldn't outsource, calling my leads and all that kind of stuff. So I knew that I had to work on it. I didn't have any other choice. So, and that's when, when it is a necessity, then you just figure this out. And, even introverts can make it happen.
Right. I love that. I absolutely love that. Huh. All right, give me 1 second actually. Let's see. Okay. So I had some extra questions just in case you said a few things that would be as interesting as I thought it would be. Yeah. So let's see. Who are two of your mentors, and what is the biggest lesson that you have so far learned from each?
um That's a good question. I mean, I follow so many people out there. Well, I mean, one of the first ones has been Ray Higdon, which I know, like, probably to a lot of network marketers, because I learned prospecting from Ray. I learned blogging from Ray. Like, his course was like, he was I think one of the very first people that I've ever bought courses from. So I've learned like probably the majority of my marketing and prospecting in particular from him. So, and honestly, like, his course really transformed everything that I do online, just like my entire brand. Because blogging has really, like, there's so many people out there these days that say blogging doesn't work. Honestly, if it wasn't for blogging, I don't think that I would be still around in this industry. I mean, I probably would, but I probably wouldn't be maybe like as successful as some people say. So that really kind of propelled me, and like kind of positioned me as an expert, as an authority, and allowed me to grow further and further. So it has been like a lot of it from content creation. So I think Ray is number one. And number two, just trying to think, because there's so many people that I listen to, like, these days, and I've listened to let me think. That's a hard question. That's a very hard question, because it's so hard to choose. I mean, there's so many people. I think I'm gonna have to go with probably Russell Brunson, because I'm a very techie person. So I don't know if you know him, but like I have his books always on my desk, you know, like .com Secrets, and I have another book, Expert Secrets. Honestly, those two probably like changed the way I look at marketing, because he has this whole idea of, you know, funnels and, you know, creating funnels. And although I don't think that it's something that is a must for network marketers, you know, for this particular industry, because we all can just use social media, and, you know, like, especially when they're first starting out. When you grow further, yes, you can use funnels and marketing and all the like crazy stuff that, you know, there is out there. But yeah, I think Russell has really kind of showed me the way how like how real business owners are building their business, and how you can, you know, like pretty much like 10x your business from where you're at right now if you're not using funnels, and how funnels can really change your whole, you know, like outline. So yeah, I think it's Ray and I think it's Russell.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. I definitely got to look into Russell. I'm not too familiar with him at all. Thank you for that. Interesting. So okay. So for those people who are unfamiliar, you know, with the term mentor and, you know, being mentored, like how important would you say it is to have a mentor? You know, because some people don't believe they need one.
Yeah, so there's you know, I think there's two different terms. So there's mentors and there's coaches. So the way I usually see it, like coach is usually somebody who I hire, you know, to have one-on-one, that I can, you know, ask questions and things like that. Mentor can be anybody. Okay, so you can choose your mentors online, even those who are no longer around, you know, like Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, I mean, like, you know, the greatest of the greatest, Napoleon Hill. So, and I feel like, I mean, I've been doing this like without a mentor for a very long time, just trying to figure stuff out on your own. It's very hard and it's super time consuming. So, you know, why not learn from somebody who has already walked the path
Mm.
and who already has done what you're trying to do, and, you know, learn from their wisdom rather than trying to, you know, like put together your own wheel. You know what I mean? So like, why reinvent something? So when it's already like the information is out there, you just have to go and pick it up. I mean, there's YouTube, there's books, there's audios, there's podcasts. I mean, you know, like I started out when I didn't have a lot of money to invest into courses or programs or events or coaches. So like I had to choose my mentors, you know, from social media, from YouTube, from, you know, books. So your mentor can be anybody today. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's really vital, because if you're not, you know, if you're not personally developing yourself, then I think Robert Kiyosaki was the one who said that, like, if you're not growing, you begin dying. And I
Mm.
really believe that, because
Yeah.
I remember my grandpa asked me, like, it was like about a year and a half ago, and he was asking me, hey, are you still doing this education thing that you're doing online? And like, you know, how long is it going to be for? I was like, until I die. He was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, you have to always be growing. You have to always be doing something. And like, you know, he didn't really get the concept, although he's been like a salesperson for like his whole life.
Wow.
But yeah, yeah, I feel like, you know, you have to be doing something on a consistent basis, whether it's going to be reading, whether that's going to be, you know, listening to, you know, like interviews just like this one, or, you know, somebody else's videos, or YouTube videos, Facebook lives, you know, something like, get around the people who have done what you're trying to achieve, and, you know, like soak up as much knowledge as you can from them.
Right. I'm totally agree. Wow. Fun. So let's see. What is an obstacle or obstacles that offered you the most adversity as you were building your business?
Obstacles for the most adversity, I think language is number one, because, you know, it was really hard, you know, kind of getting around all the people and trying to understand what they're all saying, especially, you know, like going to webinars and trainings, and, you know, me sitting here with like Google Translate, you know, to make sure that I understand everything clearly. That has been one of the challenges. And I think also being misunderstood, because like I had to kind of cut ties with a lot of my friends who didn't really understand what I was getting myself into, what I was doing.
Hmm.
So, and, you know, just not having that support from my closest friends, who we're no longer even friends. That has been kind of sad, you know, for me personally. You know, obviously I had to develop new friends, and, you know, thankful to this industry, you know, I've had. But yeah, I think it's just that misunderstanding and, like, you know, lack of support, and, you know, from like people who you thought were your closest,
Hmm.
like some of the closest, like, you know, besides family. Um, but yeah, I think like for me, honestly, it's been like language in the first place, and then like I was also afraid of being judged, you know what I mean? So like not necessarily by like, my like local friends, but also like in like online, because I kind of felt like I was like, I'm 20 years old, I'm starting to do those videos, why would anybody listen to me? So like I think it's limiting beliefs, like it's real limiting beliefs, because that's really what's stopping a lot of us from taking action that we know we should be taking.
Mm.
So I was always like, when I started blogging, and I thought to myself, like, who am I to blog? Why would anybody listen to me? And I still had that mentality that I guess I've developed from school, the fact that the teacher is older than the student. And there I was, 20 years old, and trying to reach people who were older than me, because when you're 20, there's very few people who are younger or your age. I mean, like right now millennials are kind of catching up and everything, but back 4 years ago, I was always like the youngest kid around the block.
Mm.
So, and it was kind of me overcoming that mindset to where like it's okay if the student is younger than the if the teacher is younger than the student. So yeah, it was like just a limiting belief. I was just too focused on myself. And I remember I was actually from Ray Higdon, who I've learned that said, if you are not creating content, if you are not blogging, or you're not creating videos, or you're not going out there and position yourself as a leader, you are doing your audience a disservice, and you are selfish. And I was like, no, like I'm not a selfish person, like I don't want to say that kind of thing about myself, right? So like I've never been selfish. So I was like that hurts. That hurt my like my personality a little bit. And then I realized that I had to stop focusing too much on myself and like my story, and instead focus on what's in it for my audience, meaning like what's in my content that can actually help them change their business. And honestly, like almost every single person that I've ever worked with, they've all been older than me. So, and I kind of got used to the fact that some people tell me, they're like, oh my gosh, like you're coaching me, and I have my kids are older than you. So it's definitely limiting beliefs, and I know so many people have like all kinds of them. So it's just, again, like going back to personal development and identifying that like you have to keep growing in yourself. And yeah, it's really not just about you, it's about the person that you're trying to impact.
Mm. Mm. Right. That was really key. Thank you for saying that. Wow. Um, hmm. So, what advice would you have for those who are considering, taking up a side venture for extra income, who may believe they might not have the time or money to get involved, or may not believe they cannot do it at all?
Like I had those kinds of thoughts myself as well. So I always say, if you really want to do something, if you really want to change your life, if you're really tired, of where you're at right now, if you don't want to be in the exact same place 12 months from now or 24 months from now, then you're going to figure it out. Like I jumped into the industry where my parents were supporting me. So like, we had to figure out a way for me to, you know, rather do this than go into massive debt with, having a college tuition fee to pay. You know what I mean? So, and I feel like if you say to yourself, oh, I don't know if I can do it, I was the same way. But there's and I think that's where we usually get our inspiration, is if somebody else with worse circumstances was able to make it happen, you don't have any excuses. Like, I've seen people find the money to get started. I've seen people find the time to get started. I've seen people overcome all kinds of obstacles and like achieve amazing success, just because they made a decision and they said, like, I'm done being where I'm at, like I really want to make a change. And usually you can't really make that kind of a change at your own job unless you become a boss all of a sudden, which rarely happens. You know what I mean? So I feel like it always comes down to your decision, how bad do you want it. Because if you say to yourself, I don't have the money or I don't have the time, that's probably the reason why you actually have to get involved.
That was very key. That was definitely very key. Wow. Um, okay. There's something that I do with every single episode, where I have a quote that I share. Like, I find it, how do you say it in English? Myself, like, the other language I spoke was Creole, and I lost it when I was 8 years old. So it messes with me sometimes, and it like makes. I definitely understand where you're coming from. That's actually been one of my fears. With like, considering vlogging as been watching you. And that I do have that fear of like, okay, people are judge me because I'm gonna be messing over my words. But you know what? I gotta get over that because I have something that I can help people with. So I love that you said that. But the quote that I find, I typically try to match it to the person that I'm interviewing, just based on like how they affected me. Um, so here it is. It goes, your struggle is not an excuse; it's ammunition. And that's the one that I found that you just showed me. Like it don't matter. You didn't even speak English that well. Like you're 20 years old. Everybody else would have given up. Everybody else would have been like, you know what? Let me go back to college. Let me follow what everybody else is saying. But you just listen to your own intuition. And you just kept going. You just kept going, and I absolutely love that. So for those people who are absolutely unfamiliar with you, like and they're wondering, like what level of success are you at, or whatever the case may be, how would you answer to that right now, where you're at?
Well, I'm definitely not like where I want to be, but I'm way further than I used to be. So I guess that's like one way that I can like, summarize it. I mean, I've done a lot of different things like in business as far as, like building teams, selling courses, like launching a coaching business, selling my own products, like information products, to help people out. I've done affiliate marketing. I've spoken on stages twice so far, like in front of, I believe it was each audience was 550 plus people. So I've done that. I've been interviewed on some of the like virtual summits alongside with people like Ray Higdon, Todd Falcone, Mike Dillard. So it's been like my absolute like privilege to be invited to, those kinds of, like summits. So yeah, and I mean, kind of moving forward from here, I guess building the authority that I could never even dream about. And building a business that allows me to never have to go to college or work for somebody else like ever in my life. So yeah, and I just want to like bring like keep, I guess, like working on that legacy, and show other people just like myself that you don't have to be stuck in in the rat race. You can always find a way out. So
Yeah, wow, I love it. I love when like a person almost becomes a work of art by sort of embracing what they love to do, and it's just like you get the privilege of watching them unfold themselves, and it's so interesting. So last question then. If you were given a billboard on the highway, and tens of thousands of people would see this billboard, and it'd have to be short, because they're going to be driving fast, 80 miles per hour, whatever the case may be. What would you like to put on that billboard? Anything? What would you say?
wow, that's interesting. Yeah, like that really gets you thinking because like I'm into online advertising, but like offline.
Oh,
um I guess like it's so funny. I'll give you like a backstory on this. So like we were driving with like I think the billboard really has to speak to you because like I was in El Salvador in Central America visiting my friend last year, in 2018, and we were driving and we were stuck in traffic, and she was like, oh my gosh, look at all those billboards, like they're so stupid. And there was like a bunch of stuff about politics and like elections going on in the country. She was like, she's like, who puts that kind of stuff like on the roads? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, the only thing that I care about right now is food. She's like, the only thing I care about right now is where we can go and grab something to eat because I'm hungry as hell. So I think really when it comes to billboards, when you're driving, like you really have to think about it, what do I think about right now in the moment as I'm driving, like what do I really want? Like, a lot of people, yes, like, we wanted to eat, like, it was like evening time, we were driving the whole day, we didn't have any time, to eat earlier, and she was like I really want to eat right now. So, and like, I think it would have to be something that, obviously have to hit the person's pain points, and honestly, if I were to, I'm just trying to think about this right now, when you're stuck in traffic, you just hate every single minute of it. Like, that you could be doing something else, and all you're doing is just sitting in a car waiting until the car like in front of you moves and moves, and then you just can get home. So I think like as far as billboard, I would put something that would really hit that pain point, that would people that would get, I guess, people's attention, because that's like ultimately what it's all about, growing the business online, or just like a billboard like this is getting attention. um I guess I would put something like, escape the traffic, uh, build your dream, or something like that. But I would definitely like say something about like, is like get out of traffic for good. So, something like that, like something catchy that would get people thinking, like how can I actually do that? So I think that's probably something that I would put, and maybe like some kind of image with, I don't know, like lights at the end of the tunnel or something like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I do believe, like, it's my personal belief that, you know, everybody says, oh, not everybody can be rich, or, not everybody this. And they use all these, like, blanket statements. Excuse me. But I do believe that everybody can do personal development. Everybody can, and with the internet being, how do you say, infinite, uh, I think everybody can have an online business and everybody can have wealth. And I do feel like the more people that sort of make that happen for themselves, and they overcome whatever obstacle needs to be overcome to become, you could say, that version of them that is speaking from the power voice, or whatever the case may be. I feel like the more people that do that, it will create a critical mass, a multiplicative thing where it just starts to, and then more people start saying, okay, instead of I can't do this, how can I do this? And you're one of
Yeah.
those examples, and you're definitely, with your coaching, you're personally helping people with that, and I absolutely love that, and you've been inspiring me for a very long time. So it's been an absolute just blessing, carving some time out of your day, you choosing to spend that with us. But I don't want to keep you. I know you're doing everything that you're going to be doing over there in Latvia, right? You're in Latvia, right?
Yeah, right.
I dig it. I dig it. So yeah, uh, you can say, if you like, where can people find you online?
Yeah, I think my go-to place really is Facebook. That's where I spend probably majority of my time. So, Jelena Ostrovska, you can just find by my name. I don't know if you're going to put the links anywhere or something, or, if it's on Facebook, you can just tag me. And Instagram. I think like Instagram is one of those places where, like I probably reply to messages the fastest there.
Yeah.
I'm not the fastest at replying to messages. You know about that, right? So, um, yeah, so like just my full name, instagram.com/Jelena Ostrovska. And yeah, my website, JelenaOstrovska.com. That's where majority of my content happens. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, it's an absolute blessing having you. I hope you enjoy like the rest of your day. If who knows if we ever like kind of doing a collab together. I have done collabs with artists, painters, whatever the case may be. Whatever, who knows what's open in the future. So I'm always open. But it's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate it.
Sure, definitely welcome, Jelena. Bye
Bye.
bye.